Welcome to Cybersecurity Sense, a weekly podcast providing updates and insight into the latest in cybersecurity. Brought to you by LBMC Information Security. Now, here's your host.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are talking about information security careers. With me, I have Cameron Kisner, Kristen Churchill, Andrew Stansfield, Corey Brown, and Caitlin Cooper. Our goal today will be to just discuss how we got started in our information security careers, what paths we took to get here, and finally, some advice that you might be interested in. To start off, let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Kristen Churchill, and I'm a staff information security auditor at LBMC, primarily working in SOC, and high trust roles.
Hi, I'm Cameron Kistner, lead security consultant here at LBMC. The main things that I focus on are pen testing activities and working with our clients to ensure remediations are in place.
Hi, I'm Andrew Stansfield with, I got a background more in accounting, and my role is staff, work mostly in assurance, SOC, high trust, that sort of thing.
Hi, I'm Corey. I'm a consultant here at LBMC, and I work mostly with risk. I do NIST assessments, HIPAA assessments, and AOD.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Cooper, and I just started with LBMC a few months ago, and I'm also a staff consultant on the risk services team, and I also work on mostly SOC and high trust engagements.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So we'll just go around and answer some questions. It'll be a pretty low-key thing. So to start off, first question would be, what was your path getting here? How did you get to the job that you have today?
So, Daniel, my background was kind of convoluted, like most people going through college. This is my first, I'd say, professional full-time career, but I've had various internships both in the accounting and information security auditing sector, but really spent a lot of time in business bouncing around trying to decide what I wanted to do until I eventually decided on accounting. I went to the University of Tennessee for both my undergraduate and master's of accountancy roles, focusing in supply chain analytics and information management. So going through those classes, I wasn't really aware of information security as a potential career path for me. A lot of things that were being put in front of me were more accounting related, internal audit, financial statement audit, with a high emphasis on SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley, which required public companies to also have reports on internal control, not just financial statements. So as I was going throughout the master's program, learning more about the auditing space, I had an internship with Deloitte in their IT advisory group. And this specifically had to do with the IT portion of SOX. And as I started to be exposed to these new things, that's how I started to discover the information security path. Yeah.
All right, Cameron, you're up.
Yeah, sure thing. Growing up, I was always interested in computers and technology. You could find me on the computer most of the time when I wasn't playing sports or something like that. For starting my career, I had a buddy who ran a little managed IT shop. He hired me on, and I kind of worked with him, just doing basic troubleshooting, help desk type task. From there, I moved into another job with a cloud-based video surveillance company. For those guys, I mainly handled support requests. The hardware that they were using at the time was running on Linux, and I had quite a bit of experience with Linux just from tinkering around. So that kind of allowed me to move up into more of a DevOps role, managing images and things like that for the developers at that company. At that time, I was also enrolled in school for an information security degree. I kind of always enjoyed learning about the processes involved in hacking, so I kind of knew that's where I wanted to go with my career. During that time, I transitioned into another role with a different company as a network administrator and firewall administrator. And I attended quite a few security conferences during that time. So I made a few acquaintances from going to conferences. One of my friends, Jesse, he wanted to start a a Linux user groups in the Middle Tennessee area. So I kind of got with him and we met a few times and developed a good friendship. And then one day out of the blue, he called me up and stated that the company he was working for was looking for an entry level pen tester. So I went through the interview process with those guys and they hired me on. The majority of the work that we did for those guys were pen testing in the financial sector, mainly credit unions. During that time, I kind of grew a lot in my career and learned a lot of things. Met another contact through security conferences, which is another employee here at LBMC, Derek Rush, and he gave me a recommendation for LBMC, and here we are now.
Yep, here we are now on the same team together, trained by the same Derek Rush. Thank you, Cameron. All right, Andrew Stansfield, you are up.
All right. So similar to Cameron, I'd kind of always grown up around computers. My dad's a programmer, so very comfortable with computers. When I started going to college, wasn't quite sure, knew it was wanted to do something around business and figured accounting was the right way to go. Through that, had some courses in basically in it, your Excel course is like business analytics. So that was very helpful. I really enjoy Excel, and so that you could say I excelled at it. But yeah, through that, I was able to get an internship with a manufacturing company out in Knoxville one summer. And that really, I guess, just opened the door of just all the possibilities I could do with text manipulation, crazy formulas, kind of helped me, get into that mixture of business and business analytics. And so from there, still kept up with the accounting, had an internship that was doing internal financial and IT audit. And I think the background in Excel, helped me land that internship. And that one further progressed my interest in being able to combine both data, IT into accounting and auditing. Through that internship, I gained a contact who used to work at LBMC named Matt Bennett, and phenomenal guy. He kind of encouraged me to keep pursuing going into an external auditor role through ITI. You could tell that was something I would be interested in. And through that, went to the summer leadership program with LBMC twice. And through that, met Drew Hendrickson. And after that, rest is history.
Yep, yes, it is. And you are now our go-to Excel guru.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Corey, now it's your turn.
So my story actually parallels Stansfield's a lot. I've always been super interested in computers, in open source information, and just computer security in general. My dad was also a software engineer growing up. So naturally, he made really tight electronic controls around our house. And being a kid, I would just try to bypass them and, do whatever I wanted. Professionally, I started doing various IT work for a large energy company. I did everything from network administration to trade floor IT support. So there I learned a lot of general information. I finished my bachelor's around that time in information technology and cybersecurity. I'm currently getting my master's in information assurance and cybersecurity. But after the energy company, I became a part-time information security consultant with a small company. I helped them establish principal information security policies, and I actually assisted them in securing a Fortune 50 client. The client had a lot of hard demands for such a small company, so it was a lot of work. Finally, I found my place at LBMC, where I now assess organizational risk.
Yep, and we are happy to have you. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there right now, information security majors, who would love to hear what you would have to say. And finally, last but not least, Caitlin.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in a family of accountants, so I'm a real trailblazer here going into IT audit. No, I actually started out majoring in accounting at Harding University. And once I started getting into some of the core business classes, I had some exposure to some database courses and data analytics, things of that nature, and started to notice that I was developing an interest for the information systems side of things. So I actually ended up adding a major in information systems my sophomore year. And then I did a couple of internships in financial audit and public accounting. And then my summer of my senior year, I did an internship in IT audit. And that's when I realized that I really wanted to pursue more of the IT side of things rather than accounting. So I graduated from Harding with a BBA in accounting and information systems. this past May and applied for a similar role to my IT audit internship with LBMC and just started with LBMC this past July. So I'm pretty new.
New, but you're already making an impact on a team. Thank you, Caitlin. All right. So for most of you, this is probably your first full-time information security role out of college. For the one person here who's been around the block before, the question would probably be towards the early years of your career. What were some of the unexpected challenges you encountered when starting out your information security career? Some of the growing pains you may have found with your first job, and how did you adapt to them? So, Kristen, take it away.
All right, Daniel. So I think that there's maybe two experience levels that we can talk to. So my first InfoSec role was an internship. So for someone who is in college or maybe someone who is just self-taught, learning on the side, some unexpected challenges that I've first had were experiencing different computer systems. Unlike a lot of the people here, I did not have a lot of experience in computers. None of my parents really encouraged me to work with computers as a kid. So I had definitely had to do some research for basic IT general controls like passwords, understanding not just Windows, but Linux systems, just some basic understanding of different computer languages to audit. So some of those first exposure challenges would be understanding different systems, understanding general auditing controls like user provisioning and deprovisioning, change management, backups, and other such general areas that would be good for someone who's relatively inexperienced to gain knowledge relatively quickly. And then for someone who is going into a full-time role, maybe who has already had some internship experience or experience in different roles in other industries, coming in full-time, especially with an accounting background, one of the hardest challenges for me was understanding how to audit in the IT context. From the accounting perspective, we have different auditing procedures that we do to check completeness and accuracy and make certain assertions about financial statements. Well, in the IT regulatory space, we are also making different assertions about security, confidentiality, availability, integrity, and other such areas. So, learning how to apply audit methodology within the IT audit context was definitely something that I had to learn and I'm still learning. But a good example of this would be maybe in the financial space, we would check the completeness and accuracy of revenues or expenses or certain reports. Well, in the IT space, we would check the completeness and accuracy of maybe backups or job failures or other such reporting events that would alert to maybe the completeness and availability in the sense of backups or alerting and monitoring activities for other reasons to achieve those objectives. So I think that's an especially valuable thing for anyone who is coming into this space.
Thank you, Kristen. I could tell you too that adjusting to the technical level and the consulting aspect of it is something I struggled with too as a pen tester as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who will be able to relate to that. All right, Cameron, same question to you.
Yeah, sure. There's a couple of challenges that I've encountered over my career. I would say the first one would probably be learning the lingo of information security as well as your clients' needs. When I started doing pen testing, like I said, I was mainly involved with financial institutions such as credit unions and banks. They love to use acronyms. So hacking and doing all the computer stuff's fun, but with the job duty comes the client facing activities, getting everything set up and discussing activities afterwards and the findings. For the first probably about 6 months, everyone would spit out acronyms that I had no idea what they meant. So just learning the lingo was a big challenge for me, especially when you work with clients. They're in the same environment every day. They know what they do, what kind of systems they run. So they don't often think about people that aren't used to their particular environment. So just by spouting off a random string of letters, it's kind of hard for someone to follow that. The second thing that I would like to speak about during my career that was challenging for me is we did a lot of physical penetration testing for that job as well. And what really hit home to me there was the possibility of the actions that I would perform as part of the pen testing impacting someone's career as well as their livelihood. There was a couple of times that I can recall that, people would actually, lose their jobs based on the things that we've done, allowing someone into a restricted area or not following the proper procedures. Typically, the person that was let go, it wasn't their first time offense. So, just the impact that you can have on people's careers and livelihood through the activities that we performed were a big challenge in getting over for me. And the last thing I would say would be finding a method or a kind of a template that matches your capabilities. When I first started doing pen testing, I would sit with a lot of my peers in testing. I would work with them, on a project and going through and kind of seeing how everybody does their own thing, just created their own checklist. Just trying to figure out a workflow that worked for me was very challenging, and it took quite a while to get that down.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought the last point too, because one of the things I always like to tell people interested in pen testing is don't worry so much about my methodology, because we're on the same team of 7 pen testers. We have 7 different ways of getting the same thing done.
Yep. It's definitely a challenge in getting all that set up for yourself to succeed.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Be a good learning experience for everyone. Thank you, Cameron. And Andrew, take it away.
Yeah, so similar to Kristen, while I did have some background in programming and kind of led into that Excel, I did not have a lot in as far as like architecture devices that we'd see and have to test, such as firewalls, network diagrams. That was something I'd kind of been exposed to, but like what do all these symbols mean? So those sorts of things were kind of a challenge at first, and it was a lot of Googling, but definitely after a year or so, it definitely you start seeing things you've seen before, like, oh, I remember seeing this firewall, another company had firewall configs like this. Okay, I know what to look for now. So those sorts of things definitely were a challenge at first, but definitely you get the hang of over time. Another challenge at first was crafting emails. So there's definitely an art behind crafting the perfect client follow-up, because you want to be friendly. We're consultants. We got to be, friendly. We want to make sure that our customers they feel like they're being paid attention to, they're not neglected. But we also need to be concise and direct with our questions, because the more time you spend following up, the less time you spend being able to finish being able to test your controls, whatever you're trying to do in your role. So being able to, and then also preventing confusion in your emails is something that I found challenging at first. So with what what are testing, IT controls, sometimes you might be interacting with a business analyst who's not familiar with those firewall configurations I mentioned. So being able to speak to different people and craft your emails in certain ways is definitely a challenge that was a bit unexpected.
Yeah, that really is. That brings me back to my first days on a job, where I would take 15, 20 minutes just to craft one email. And I would always just base it off of an email that Derek has sent me in the past.
Yeah, no, I still take my time with my emails, and it's never a bad idea to have somebody proofread your emails to make sure they make sense. So yeah, definitely been there.
Yep, shared growing pains by everyone. Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
All right, Corey, your turn.
Hey, so I had a really tough time transitioning from information technology to information security. I tried everything from transitioning internally at my first IT job to external networking. During my first year in IT, I think that I attended 4 different conferences across America, all the way from Las Vegas to Louisville, just to try to get my foot in the door in information security somewhere. So that was a really difficult barrier to jump.
Oh, yeah, I bet. I know some people in IT who are trying to transition to information security. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who'd be very interested to make the same jump that you did. Thank you, Corey. Caitlin.
Yeah, so as someone who's pretty recently graduated college, I find myself making a lot of comparisons to kind of the difference between how I approach college versus approaching the workplace, I guess. And one of the big things that I found as a challenge when I first started at LBMC was the whole time management, prioritization thing with all your projects that you're getting. Because in college, yeah, you have a lot of projects to balance and expectations to meet and things like that. But it's not like once you get into the workplace, you get a syllabus day one saying, hey, here's the expectations. You're going to be graded on these, your ability to meet these. Doesn't quite work like that. So definitely found it hard, especially as a staff coming in. I feel like you get put on a lot of different projects starting out just because you're the one doing a lot of the testing and documentation. So it was a little bit overwhelming at first to try to balance all of the expectations, I guess. But definitely, this is kind of mirroring what Cameron said earlier, but find something that works for you to stay organized. I mean, everyone's different, and there's not one surefire way to be able to balance all the client expectations or projects that you're assigned to. But definitely make a conscious effort to prioritize your time. Don't get too stuck in the weeds, I guess, starting out, because it can get overwhelming.
Oh, it definitely can. Glad you brought up the whole organizing thing because you see my desk. I am the king of Post-it notes, and yeah, I'm glad you brought up the having to jump between different projects too. Because I remember the way I described my first few months was just drinking from a fire hose. I learned so much jumping between different projects, but man, there was a lot of information to take in.
That's for sure.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. So next question. Now you've gone through a lot of the early trials, you've gained some experience. What advice would you like to give people interested in following your career path, be it pen testing, risk assessment, or assurance? Kristen, could you please start us off?
Sure, Daniel. So I think one of the most important things is to be able to get a lot of different experiences in different industries and different service lines. So for anyone, it's really good to get an internship or maybe talk with as many people as you can if you cannot get an internship, just about the different areas that you're interested in, because there's no better way to know whether you like doing something than doing it or speaking to someone who has done it. And definitely keeping an open mind and being ready to learn is another piece of advice I have, which kind of goes along with trying many different things. So in our area of expertise, everything is always changing 1,000 miles a minute. So someone has to be ready to be up to date with the latest industry guidance and able to apply that to clients in situations that are not always homogenous. So that's my advice for people who are interested in going down this career path.
Thank you, Kristen. I think that's great advice, regardless of what discipline you choose. I mean, one of my anecdotes is I remember one of my first pen tests, I came across Tableau for the first time, and now Tableau's everywhere. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about keeping up to date. All right, thank you. Cameron, your turn.
So, what I find really amazing about pen testing in particular is it doesn't really follow the traditional backgrounds of most career paths. It is possible to break into the industry, without an education in a specific field such as cybersecurity. My advice to people wanting to break into that space: start with the basics, learn networking and how the communications work between computers and PCs. Learn the basics for the main operating systems out there: Windows, Mac, Linux. Be familiar with how to navigate the file system, tools that are available, open source tools. Learn those tools that are available. There's also quite a few intentionally vulnerable websites like virtual machines on Hack the Box or Hack the Site. There's also open bug bounty programs such as HackerOne that anyone can join, even if you're not, there making, thousands of dollars like some of these professional bug bounty hunters. You can get access to commercial grade infrastructure to help your learning path.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Cameron. If you don't mind me adding on to what you said, I think the added benefit of a lot of these intentionally vulnerable, Hack the Box and VulnHub and whatnot, would just be, speaking for myself, if I see someone putting in the effort, even if they're not there technically, I am very willing to invest my time and energy into training them if I see the drive there.
Yep. One other thing that kind of comes to mind as well is attending conferences related to security. There's a lot of really good people out there that attend those, and A lot of the people that I've met and befriended also want to give back to the community. So, there's plethora of options for them to teach you things or point you in the right direction or, put you in contact with the right people to kind of get your foot in the door as well.
Yeah, for sure. So many resources out there. And hey, us hackers can be friendly folk. All right. Thank you, Cameron. Andrew Stansfield.
Yeah, I would say, this has kind of been echoed before, is to just try it when it comes to like IT assurance, if it's feasible, and if you've got an internship already, and there's either an internal IT audit department, or you can see if they'd let you go hang out with their InfoSec guys or girls for a bit. That would also help you get that familiarity, see if information security is something you're interested in. Drink from that fire hose, get that experience. It's definitely not something you can learn the head knowledge, but to fully experience it, it's definitely, you just got to see it. It's kind of those are my advice right there.
It's solid advice. Like I said, you don't know until you try, and I think that was Kristen who brought that up too. Thank you, Andrew. Corey, your turn, please.
So I agree a lot with what Cameron said. I personally didn't really find free resources for learning information security until I had already started my career. So like Hack the Box, Pentester Labs, and Cybrary were really great resources that I did not know about at all. One thing I have noticed is that a lot of newcomers in the field, they look at certifications as like an end-all be-all. And I think that they kind of shoot for them without completely understanding what information is valuable and relevant in the industry. Also, just like Cameron was saying about conferences, there's tons of volunteering opportunities there. You can go to local conferences, to user groups, even DEF CON has different villages for all different parts of information security, and they'll take your hands if you're willing.
For sure. I'm glad you echoed what Cameron said, because that's been my experience as well. Thank you, Corey. And again, last but not least, Caitlin.
Hey, so I definitely agree with what's been said so far, but I guess one additional thing I feel like I can add that doesn't really apply to one specific discipline, but I feel like it's still important. I would say always seek out feedback wherever you can. Doesn't matter what it's in necessarily, but I just feel like it's super important to always try to learn from, not only your mistakes, but also your successes, but definitely seek out feedback from those you're working with, maybe your professors, your coworkers, if you're doing internships, things of that nature. But I just feel like it's super important to learn how to receive both positive and negative feedback and be able to address that and learn from it. And LBMC has a great coaching mentoring program that I've gotten to kind of be involved in these first few months. And it was kind of the first time I'd really been exposed to that kind of formalized feedback. And I'm finding that it's super helpful for me in my role, especially starting out. You want to learn from the experienced professionals that you're working with and be able to improve along the way. So I feel like wherever you are in college and an internship and any kind of role, it's always good to seek out that kind of feedback because it'll take you far in whatever role you choose.
Thank you, Caitlin. I completely agree too. I could say from personal experience that the feedback I've gotten when I started out with Cameron and Derek and all the others I've worked with, them pointing out my weak spots has been such a big factor in my success today.
For sure.
So now on to the last topic. We talked a lot about our struggles. Now let's talk about what do you love about your job? What drives you? What aspect of your job makes you excited to go to work in the morning? I could say for myself, there is nothing else I would rather be doing right now. So, Kristen, take it away.
Well, there certainly are a lot of things that I love about what I do, but as far as like what drives me every day, I really do enjoy helping out our clients and being able to be a part of that process of, as Caitlin was saying, providing feedback on controls as we're testing things and possibly pointing out some vulnerabilities or weaknesses that really could be fixed and add value to our clients. So that makes me very excited every day. But what I really love about being at LBMC is all of the different opportunities we have to work on different projects, and no client is ever the same. Even when the service is repetitive, the client's different, the industry's different, and you never know what you're going to be exposed to. And there's many different roles within an engagement. And I think that within our firm, which is a relatively smaller group. It's not incredibly big, but 50 or so people, 60 or so people is enough to be able to get exposed to all the intelligent people you work with, but get to know them as well. So there's a lot of interaction with many different people, but it's not too big. So you're able to actually get to know everyone. So I do like that we have such intelligent specialists, if you really want to call everyone that. Everyone has their own area of expertise, and it's really cool to work on different engagements and with different people, because every day you're exposed to something different. So that's really what I love.
Thank you, Kristen. Very well said. Cameron, your turn.
Yeah. So I'll kind of tie a story back to this that kind of got me where I'm at today. The first pen test job that I went on was for a credit union in Louisiana. I went with my boss and the guy that was supposed to train me. When we first got there, we typically do a physical assessment first. So we try to, get in and get to unauthorized areas of the building, maybe by posing as someone else. So, when we first get there, I thought I was just kind of going to be watching those guys and learning from them. But they told me to get out of the car and go try the physical portion of the testing. So I went in the building through the back door, following another one of their employees. Got stopped by one of their liaisons. I think she was like a secretary, maybe for the CEO or someone. Told them that I was there with the NCUA, which is the regulatory body for credit unions, and that I was there for a meeting. She allowed me to go into their main conference room there. I was able to pull NTLM hashes off of a PC in the conference room, and then also use a credit card to break into the CEO's office that's attached to the conference room, physically take a laptop and a lot of important documentation off his desk and walk right out of the building. After all that was said and done, I came to the realization, if someone could do this without any prior planning, what could be had, with months of planning, or the time to come up with a strategy to accomplish the nefarious activities that I just did without any kind of planning. So being able to help clients close those gaps and train people in the proper procedures for security is great for the company, but it's also great for the employees, just in a sense to make everyone safer in the workplace. I also really enjoy doing a pen test. To me is kind of like a puzzle, even though most of the time I'm trying to fit the square peg into the round hole. With that, we get to learn so many technologies that a lot of people probably aren't exposed to on a day-to-day basis, because they work for a company and they have their specific stack that they use. So you don't get exposed to everything out there. Working in the consulting capacity, get an opportunity to be exposed to a plethora of technology that you probably wouldn't get to be otherwise. And just being able to take the time to learn about those specific technologies is really fun for me as well.
For sure. You hit it on the head for me too. I love my job because it's a never-ending supply of fun puzzles to solve. Thank you, Cameron. Andrew, your turn.
Yeah, so I guess something about my personality is that I really enjoy learning. Learning new things doesn't have to be about IT audit specifically, but in the context of my job here, I love learning new systems, learning about the different clients. There's, their tools, applications they're all using. And one thing I find really rewarding is being able to take that knowledge I learned from testing a backup system for one client to being able to say, oh, I've had to deal with this system before. Here's some things we learned from that. So that kind of client interaction I find really rewarding. And that's not something I thought I would say when I got in here, is that I enjoy interacting with people, but I really enjoy our client interaction. It's definitely quite rewarding for me. And that's not something you get, say, if you were in tax. That I was meeting with a friend of mine today who's in tax, and he said prior to recently, he really hadn't had any client interaction. And so that's, I think, pretty indicative of the field we're in. And audit's probably the same way as we are, where you get to go on site. And like week 3 of my internship, they flew me out to San Antonio for an on-site, which was completely foreign to me. So you definitely get thrown in fast, and I really enjoyed that.
For sure. Thanks for sharing. And as an extrovert, I completely get it too. I love my client interactions. Thank you, Andrew. Corey, take it away.
Yeah, I love being able to analyze information security programs. I love forming relationships with clients in different organizations, and I love just helping them become more secure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those client relationships really exist, and I think that's something that we can all relate to. Thank you, Corey. And finally, last but not least again, Caitlin.
Yeah, so I don't have much to add to what's been already said. I think everyone kind of hit the nail on the head. But to echo more of what Kristen said, I do really enjoy getting to help clients identify areas of improvement and feel like I'm adding value to those businesses rather than simply trying to find, misstatements or deficiencies, which I felt like was what I kind of got caught in some of my financial audit internships. I felt like I was just trying to point out everything that the client was doing wrong and didn't enjoy that as much as now I feel like I get to kind of be a trusted advisor for clients and help them get the most out of their business. So yeah, I'm kind of the same as what's already been said.
For sure. I mean, that collaborative relationship is something that I enjoy a lot too. I mean, it's why we're all here in consulting. Thank you, Caitlin. And I think that would be it for today. So again, thank you again to Kristen Churchill in assurance, Cameron Kisner in pen testing, Andrew Stansfield in assurance, Corey Brown in risk assessment, and Caitlin Cooper in assurance. Feel free to check out our other podcasts at Cybersecurity Sense. Check out our website at lbmcinformationsecurity.com. And if you're interested in this podcast, we will have another one coming up soon in a month. Thank you again, everyone, and take care.